Morning, everyone. Well, it is just a couple days after Christmas, and after all the chaos and family stuff and kids coming and going, which is all really great, settled down here this morning to kind of crack open my Bible and just opened it up randomly, and this is what came up, and I'm going to read it to you. And I thought this is an interesting thing to have pop up right after the Christmas season. Could be applicable. I feel like it's something we probably get caught up in, but I'm just going to read this and you guys can see if anything applies to you. The name of it, my Bible, before I start, has these little things inside of it that are like devotionals from like Our Daily Bread or something like that. And so I usually enjoy reading those along with whatever scripture verses I'm reading. So what I'm going to read is the little devotional that's inside of this part of my Bible. So this one's called The Gift of Self-Indulgence. The title is already like, ew. Okay, here's what it says. An upscale London department store launched a new gift card with the slogan, The Gift of Self-Indulgence. Throughout the store, signs and slogans, even name tags, called attention to the cards. According to one employee, sales of the gift cards during the first weeks of the promotion had been very strong, far exceeding the company expectations. Generosity may prompt a person to give a luxurious gift to someone special, but too often we find it easier to purchase what we want for ourselves. The prophet Ezekiel sheds light on an ancient city whose people suffered God's judgment in part because they embraced a self-indulgent lifestyle. Sodom's sins were pride, gluttony, and laziness, while the poor and needy suffered outside her door. She was proud and committed to detestable sins, so I wiped her out, as you have seen. That's Ezekiel 16:49 and 50. Historically, the Lord has dealt harshly with people who become arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. The antidote to this poison of self-indulgence is the desire to please God and serve others, not ourselves. And that's from Philippians 2:4. Self-indulgence is a gift we don't need. You might want to take another swig of your coffee while we digest this. So I loved that it was talking about self-indulgence. Obviously, in my opinion, or not in my opinion, but in my thought process, I'm like, whew, that went like real dark, real fast. And of course, I had to turn to my Bible and see what else God says about that, right? So we're going to read some scripture verses today and see where this takes us. But I think that we can look into some parts of self-indulgence that are extremely bad for our growth, set us back. And there's also parts of it, I think, that says self-indulgence is a gift we don't need. But there are some things we can indulge in and should indulge in. So not all self-indulgence is bad. So I'm going to back up the train for a hot second and just kind of go through some scripture verses real quickly. So Philippians 3:19 says, their destiny is destruction, their God is their stomach, and their glory is in their shame. Their mindset is on earthly things. Okay, so the self-indulgence here would be too much food. Is that gluttony? And our mindset being on earthly things. Pretty easy to do, especially we just went through Christmas. Our focus was pretty much on ourselves and eating a lot of food. At least I'm just talking about myself here maybe, but I ate a lot of food. Another one here, which I thought was super interesting because it's talking about the nation of Israel. It's Isaiah 56:10 and 11. Israel's watchmen are blind. They all lack knowledge. They are all mute dogs. They cannot bark. They lie around and dream. They love to sleep. They're dogs with a mighty appetite, but they never have enough. They are shepherds who lack understanding. They all turn to their own way. They seek their own gain. If I was going to think about any of the pieces of that, what would that touch on in my own life? So I'm not going to beat that one to death. I would rather focus on what we are supposed to be indulging in, because there's a lot of that. So I think we have a pretty good idea of what are the areas that we don't want to spend a whole ton of time indulging in. And I'm not saying that for Christmas you can't have an extra slice of pie. Not at all. This is about a mindset of over like the Christmas presents and the food and all the things we do, the extra activities. And I mean, it's a time we cram in so much. And I think that's great. That's quality. A lot of that is quality family time, which we don't get. But if our focus is only on gimme, 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 or what can I get? How much can I sleep? How much can I eat? I think that is the focus here, not that we're taking time to spend quality minutes with people who we love. So let's focus on where we should focus. Titus 2, 11 and 12. For the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people. It teaches us to say no to ungodly things and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age. Teaching ourselves to say no when it applies, when we need to. Again, you might want to fill your coffee cup. Acts 17, 10 and 11. As soon as it was night, the believers sent Paul and Silas away to Berea. On the way there, they went to a Jewish synagogue. Now the Berean Jews were of more noble character than those in Thessalonica, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. I highlighted 2 sentences in that scripture verse because the rest of it, you're like, what does that got to do with anything? They received the message with great eagerness, and they examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. That's where we should be. Receiving the message that Christ has given us with great eagerness and examining anything we hear, even if it's from your pastor in church on Sunday, examining everything we hear to make sure that it's actually correct. Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God. You've heard that one probably before. That's an oldie but goodie. But again, we don't want to be transformed by the world. We want to be transforming the world. I am the transformer. And one last scripture verse, Galatians 5:16. But I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. So walk by the Spirit. It's that simple. That easy, you say. Yeah, not so easy. And I want to kind of sort of tie this together. Obviously, I think it's a position we put ourselves in. This, the thing that I wrote here was that receive the message with great eagerness. We have to be eager each day. Our self-indulgence is our eagerness to see what God has for us each day. How do I follow him? How do I become a better disciple? And to tie that all together, at our church, we've been doing this book, Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. And I'm not going to go into the book today at all. I just want to look at the appendix, actually, because I'll be referring to this off and on because my husband and I are actually reading this book together. But it's talking about apprenticing to Jesus, and what does that mean? Actually becoming a disciple of him. So when you are an apprentice to someone, you spend time, right? Anybody who's been in an electrician or a plumber or any of these fields, my son was a heavy equipment operator. You spend time with the people who are training you. You do what they do. You learn to do the process like you're supposed to do it, or like they're teaching you to do it. You're an apprentice. You're learning all the time. You keep your eyes open. You receive the message, hopefully with great eagerness, and then try to apply what you've learned, right? So the appendix here is when you apprentice to Jesus, your first goal is to be with Jesus, and your next goal is to become like Jesus. And the last goal 3 in this book is do as he did. And this sounds simple, right? Not so simple. But as I gotta go through more and more of this book, I'd love to share some more things that God is kind of touching me, that I need to be aware of in myself, and how I be with him and become like him, and then do what he did. So how does that all come into self-indulgence? So back to the beginning part of this, I'm gonna spill my coffee, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? Back to the first part I was reading out of my Bible that self-indulgence is a gift we don't need. Absolutely. There's some parts of self-indulgence, and you can probably pick through your last couple weeks and go, ugh, okay, yeah, gotcha. Parts of that didn't help me. But the antidote to the poison of self-indulgence is the desire to please God and serve others, not ourselves. Let that sit for a bit today. See where it takes you. And have another cup of coffee. I got a new cup for Christmas though. It says Mama needs some coffee. You think my family knows me? Have a good week.